You know that feeling when you come home expecting your quiet little routine, and instead you walk right into a full-blown sitcom episode? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. So, I had just gotten back from work, dragging my tired self through the bustling hallways of my apartment building. It's one of those old brick places downtown got character, weird creaks, and, apparently, surprises. As I pushed open the door to my apartment, I wasn't exactly ready for what or who I'd find inside. There he was, standing smack dab in the middle of my living room like he owned the place. Tall, a bit scruffy, wearing that kind of outfit that looks like he got dressed in the dark patchy jeans, a faded band shirt, and sneakers that had clearly seen better days. He gave me this casual smile, like he'd been expecting me all along. I blinked, half thinking I'd accidentally wandered into the wrong apartment. Can I help you? I finally managed. Hey, he said, still grinning. You must be Max. I'm Leo, your new roommate. My new roommate? What? No, wait. I stared at him like he grew a second head. Because, last I checked, I hadn't agreed to anyone moving in. At least, no one I knew of. No, wait. What new roommate? I tried to play it cool, but honestly, my brain was doing somersaults. Leo shrugged, glanced around the place like he was checking off boxes on some mental list. Landlord told me I could move in today. Seemed easier than messing around with another place. Right, the landlord. The one person who somehow thought this was all perfectly fine without asking me first. So, you've just been given the keys? Without asking me? I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. Leo nodded, still like it was the most natural thing in the world. Yeah, I guess I'm your unexpected house guest. Lucky me. I felt this weird mix of irritation and disbelief curling in my stomach, because here was a total stranger. He'd just taken over my sanctuary, my home. And honestly, I didn't know if I should laugh, cry, or start looking for a new place myself. But then, before I could gather my thoughts, he plopped down on my couch like he'd lived here for years. So, what's the Wi-Fi password? He asked, scrolling on his phone, totally chill. And right there it hit me. How do you even deal with someone barging into your life like this? Someone who's suddenly sharing your space, your routines, your everything? I mean, I could kick up a fuss, sure. But what if there's some crazy backstory I didn't know? What if this guy is just trying to get by like the rest of us? Or worse, what if this is the start of a weirdly hilarious disaster? That's when the doorbell rang. Yep, of course it did. My landlord, standing there with that "I'm just doing my job" smile, looking way too pleased with himself. And I thought, well, this day just got a whole lot more interesting. So, here's the deal. My life before Leo barged in was pretty chill. I mean, nothing to write home about. I'd get up at a reasonable hour, grab my coffee from that little cafe down the block where the barista knows my order by heart, black with an extra shot. Then I'd hop on the subway, head to the office where my main accomplishments were mastering the art of looking busy and perfecting my spreadsheet skills. Evenings were usually me, some takeout, and my dog-eared copy of whatever random novel I was pretending was a guilty pleasure. City life, busy but predictable. That predictability was kind of the point me, carving out my own little calm corner in the chaos. But rent was no joke, and frankly, the idea of someone else chipping in sounded reasonable. My best friend Nate was the one who turned the idea from a maybe into a you really should. Nate's the kind of guy who always seems 10 steps ahead, with a smile that's a little too confident, and ideas that often land somewhere between brilliant and, well, what the heck? When I called him after the Leo surprise, his voice came through all casual and chilled like it was no big deal. Dude, I told you, Leo's the perfect fit, you'll see. Perfect fit? I was still staring at this guy like he was some kind of urban legend come to life. So, I decided to meet the guy Nate was raving about because, well, I figured maybe I'd misjudged Leo's jumbled jeans and teetering sneakers look. Nate swung by the apartment the next evening, and as soon as he stepped inside, his grin stretched from ear to ear. He gave Leo a quick, friendly slap on the back, like these two had been through half a dozen ridiculous adventures together. And honestly, I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Alright, so what's the deal here? Because as far as I know, Leo showed up like a lost puppy who decided my living room was the best spot in the city, I said, trying to keep it light. Nate waved me off. Man, just wait. Leo's got charm. He's smart, funny, and full of weird stories you'll love. Trust me, he's exactly who you need around. Funny and full of weird stories? Okay, that might explain the band t-shirt and the "I just woke up and stumbled here" vibe. But charm? Was that charm or just the kind of enthusiasm that makes you want to run for cover? Across the room, Leo caught my uncertain look and tossed me a grin that almost, but not quite, made me believe him. He was fiddling with one of those retro vinyl records you see hipsters get obsessed about, looking both casual and oddly engaged. So, what's the story with this place? You live here long? Leo asked, breaking the silence like he was trying to fill an awkward sitcom pause. Long enough, I shrugged, wondering exactly how long I'd have to endure this unexpected roommate situation. It's my sanctuary, mostly. Quiet, predictable, which is the point when you live in a city that never sleeps. Leo nodded casually, like he understood more than I was letting on. Then he shot Nate this quick glance, and I swear, something in that look made my stomach twist, which was weird because I didn't even really know the guy. Nate jumped in with one of his classic, overly enthusiastic pitches. Leo's a real treasure trove. You'll see. He cooks like a pro, he's got this collection of old movie posters, and he's half a music encyclopedia. I raised my eyebrows. Cooking? I haven't seen that yet. The only thing Leo has cooked so far is whatever disaster smells coming from the kitchen yesterday. Leo grinned mischievously but kept quiet, like he knew showing off his culinary skills might come later and I'd better brace myself. As the night went on, the three of us pretended like this was normal, chatting about work, the city, and vague plans that mostly revolved around the kitchen and the couch. But under all the small talk was this strange tension, like there was a secret we all tiptoed around. After Nate left, I caught Leo staring out the window into the night sky, the city lights blinking back at him. I asked, "So, what's your story, really? How did you end up here without me even knowing?" He looked at me, eyes a little softer than before. Sometimes opportunity knocks, and you just have to open the door, even if it's unexpected. That answer didn't clear much up, but it did raise more questions. And then there was the neighbor, the mysterious one who lived across the hall. I never really chatted much with him, mostly because the guy had this vibe like he was eyeing the whole building like some kind of secret guardian. But that night, as I took out the trash, he caught me in the hallway. "You're the one with the new roommate, right?" he asked, voice low and a bit gravelly. "Yeah, that's me," I said, looking around to be sure no one else was listening. He nodded slowly. "Leo's different. Hides a lot under that scruffy look. Watch your back, Max." I blinked. "Watch my back? What do you mean?" But the neighbor just shrugged, then disappeared down the hall, leaving me standing there with an unsettling chill. Back in my apartment, I looked over at Leo, who was now perched on the windowsill, legs dangling like he owned the skyline as much as the couch. Maybe Nate was right. Maybe Leo was a perfect fit in some weird cosmic way. Or maybe I was just setting myself up for the strangest roommate story ever. It didn't take long for the cracks to start showing, the kind that make you realize perfect fit was probably Nate's creative interpretation, not mine. At first it was these little things, like I'm a lights off when I leave the room kind of guy, and Leo, well, let's just say he treated light switches like toys. Every time I went to bed, I'd find the living room glowing like a disco, with Leo sitting there, fully immersed in some documentary about obscure punk bands or fixing a guitar string in the dark. One night, I'd just settled in, ready for a quiet marathon of whatever pointless sitcom helped me zone out, and I hear this weird clanking sound from the kitchen. I peeked in, and Leo was there, in the middle of the night, trying to make what looked like toast but was actually slightly smoking bread with what he called experimental toppings. Yeah, it smelt more like a science experiment gone wrong, and then there was the bathroom saga. You know how some people have their bathroom routine down to a delicate art, me included. But Leo? This guy had a leave the shower curtain half open rule that somehow resulted in mysterious damp spots all over the floor, plus a random collection of what I assumed were his toiletries that had spilled and mingled like a chaotic potion shelf. But the real kicker came from an unexpected source. The neighbor. That cryptic warning necklace of words he dropped lingered in my mind like a pop song stuck on repeat. I was on my way out to grab some air, still reeling from Leo's nocturnal kitchen disasters, and there he was again, lurking near the stairs like some building watchman who'd seen it all. "You know," he said without preamble, "people here don't stay the same for long. Leo's past, it's complicated." I swallowed down my curiosity and tried to keep it casual. "Complicated how? Like, bad complicated?" He gave me this slow, meaningful look that made it clear there was more to the story than I could handle just yet. "You'll see. Just don't let yourself get tangled in it." Yeah, thanks for the warm welcome, I thought. So of course the next day I tried to get something out of Leo himself. In the bright afternoon light of our cramped kitchen, I caught him sorting through some old vinyls, the kind with those cover art that look like a weird mix of nostalgia and strange aesthetics. "Hey, Leo," I started, trying to sound nonchalant. "What's with all the vintage stuff?" "You seem like you stepped out of a time capsule." He gave me a sly smile. "Old souls like old things. Plus, stories hide in the cracks, you know, kinda like people." I nodded slowly, wondering if my entire apartment was about to turn into an episode of some detective series starring a guy with a mysterious past and a questionable knack for making toast. But then, just as I thought maybe, I don't know, it wasn't all too bad, the landlord popped up at our door. Now, up until that moment, he'd been this polite, distant figure who mostly showed up just to collect rent or drop a bill. This time, though, his visit was different. "Max," he said, looking unusually serious, "we need to talk about the lease." I blinked, glancing at Leo, who was leaning casually against the wall like he was silently urging me to keep my cool. "About the lease?" I echoed. "Yeah," the landlord continued, adopting that official tone that sounds like it's about to rain trouble. Leo's paperwork isn't exactly in order, and, well, we might have a bit of a situation. I felt like I just tripped down a rabbit hole, and the landlord was the one tossing in the confusing riddles. And what kind of situation? I asked, trying not to sound like I was hoping it would just be a mix-up with the mail. Let's just say, Leo's story isn't what it seems on the surface. There's been some back and forth with building management, and it's brought attention from, outside parties. My heart was doing that weird staccato thing that means you're simultaneously worried and intrigued. I looked over at Leo, who met my gaze with a calm expression. Outside parties, I repeated, feeling like I was in the middle of a soap opera. He shrugged lightly. Look, this wasn't supposed to be this public, but sometimes life throws these curveballs. You just have to catch them, or they knock you out. I wasn't sure if I was ready to catch anything just yet. The landlord cleared his throat. Bottom line, Max, we might need to sort this out fast, for everyone's sake. And just like that, the layers started peeling back, revealing a roommate situation way messier than I signed up for. Now, between Leo's midnight kitchen escapades, the neighbor's ominous warnings, and the landlord hinting at mysterious outside attention, I was starting to realize something. This wasn't just a roommate issue. It was a full-on mystery wrapped in an enigma wearing a ratty band tee, and somehow, I was in it. Weeks passed, and the tangled mess of Leo's arrival and all the weirdness that came with it started to unfold in ways I never saw coming. The landlord wasn't bullshitting about outside parties. Turns out Leo had a past that was way more complicated than I'd imagined. But here's the kicker. It wasn't all shady secrets and drama as I'd feared. It was something else. One late evening, after a particularly noisy debate about who ate the last slice of pizza, spoiler, Leo did, he finally let something slip. I found him on the couch, surprisingly serious for once, fiddling with an old, beat-up notebook that looked like it had been through a war. You want to know why I showed up unannounced? He asked, voice low. I nodded, leaning forward. All this time, I'd been guessing, worrying if I made a mistake letting this guy crash at my place, if I was signing up for a disaster or worse. Leo sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm not running from cops or anything like that. More like running towards something. I'm kind of a whistleblower, you know? Was working on exposing some corporate mess, and long story short, some people weren't thrilled. He paused, eyes flicking to the window like the city itself held secrets he was wary of. So, the landlord letting me move in was more a last-minute lifeline. I wasn't supposed to bother you, but, well, it was the safest spot I could find quickly. I blinked, digesting it all. The mysterious neighbor's cryptic warning. The landlord's uneasy behavior. It all made this strange kind of sense now. Leo was not some random street wanderer crashing my apartment. He was someone trying to keep his head down while navigating a world I knew nothing about. Still, trust. That was the real question. Because living with someone who's got all this hidden baggage means your calm little corner might never be the same again. I rubbed my temples, half smiling. So, you're like a modern-day secret agent, but with less glamour and more midnight toast disasters? Leo laughed, the tension breaking just enough to feel human again. Yeah, exactly that. Minus the gadgets. Then came the landlord's twist. He showed up one afternoon looking less like the distant businesslike guy and more like a reluctant guardian of this unlikely duo's secret. He explained that the building management was keeping a close eye, but he was trying to keep things quiet, more for my sake than for Leo's. We're all just trying to avoid a headline splash, Max. Trust me, it's better this way. That put a new spin on everything. My little sanctuary had turned into a front row seat to a story bigger than me. Now, here's the real fun part. What do you do when your unexpected roommate is someone tangled in dramas way above your pay grade, but who's also just a regular guy trying to make a home? Do you kick him out, spiral into chaos, or try to figure out a way through the madness? I won't lie, I was tempted to slam the door and declare this whole roommate disaster over. But watching Leo improvise toast experiments or chatting about old punk bands with Nate when he visited showed me another side, a guy who, beneath all the shadows, was trying to build something normal. So, I made a call. Not the dramatic, confrontational one, but the kind that says, all right, world's weird, you're weird, let's figure this out. Leo raised an eyebrow. That sounds dangerously practical coming from you. I smiled back. Well, I'm a spreadsheet guy. I like solutions. And just like that, the apartment settled into a strange rhythm. Not perfect, not always easy, but ours. There's still that lingering question, though. How much do you really trust someone when you only know the half of their story? And how much do you give room for second chances when the past keeps knocking on the door? Guess that's the thing about roommates, and life in general. You never really have the full script. You just have to decide how much you're willing to improvise. And maybe, somewhere in the mess, find a little unexpected harmony.